Hey everybody, welcome to or back to my channel, My Kind of Stuff, and today is my January reading wrap up. So, I'm not really sure what happened in January, but I read a lot. Like, I normally read a lot, but I feel like I read way more than usual. I read 39 books. That does include some manga and stuff like that, so I guess a few less full-length novels, but still that's a ton. So I think I'm gonna not talk about these books too much, and we're just gonna kind of going to rapid fire go through them. I've sorted everything by my star rating, so we will start with my least favorite and end at my favorite book. So starting off, I did have one DNF this month. I had an ARC copy of Hot Singles in Your Area by Jordan Chevley. This was supposed to be like body horror, and I I don't know. I read about 50% of this and nothing even remotely unsettling happened. Um So maybe I just didn't get it. I don't know. Also, the formatting on my Kindle for it was atrocious. There was like newspaper clippings and footnotes and things like that, but none of it like lined up. Like you would get a number for the footnote, but the footnote you wouldn't get until like 7 pages later. And by then you forgot what the footnote was even for. And it was a lot of flipping around. The newspaper clippings were like in tiny little chunks instead of a full page. So I had to sit there for like 5 minutes straight, just turning the page on my Kindle to get through these newspaper clippings before I could continue the story. And I was just getting so irritated with it. So, yeah, that was my DNF for the month. I did not have any 1 or 1.5 star reads. I did have 1 2-star read, and that was The Ancestors by Danielle Trussoni. If you want my full thoughts on this, I talk about it in a lot more detail in my 101 horror books blog that I just posted last week, so you can check that out. But yeah, this book, first of all, it did not deliver on what I was told that it was going to be. It was just really crappy rich people drama and treating people that are different than you in a really shitty way, and kind of like some child abuse. And I don't know. Overall, it just gave me the ick. So that one was a no for me. um, I had 2.5 star reads. The first one was On a Clear Day, You Can See Block Island. I read this because of my TBR takedown video that I do every month, and this was one of the books that was randomly selected. It had too many character viewpoints, and I think too young of characters for a story that was this dark. Um, it wasn't bad, I guess. It just wasn't a favorite of mine, and it was a little too short for how many viewpoints we got, where everything just felt really shallow. My other 2.5 star read was another arc that I received from Horrorsmith Publishing, and that is Three Garden Village by Lance Riedinger. Um, this one was a slasher, and well, I liked those aspects of it. I think it was done really well. It was really gruesome and brutal. There was too many characters and too much lull in between each kill scene, where I was finding myself skimming a lot, just trying to get to the next like exciting thing happening, because I feel like slashers should be pretty fast paced, and the pacing just felt off in this one. All right, I had a handful of 3-star reads this month as well. The first one being My Isekai Life. I gained a second class character and became the strongest sage in the world. This is volume 4. I gave this one 3 stars. This series has kind of been a slow start. I have also read some other volumes since this, but I gave those a much higher rating, so it is definitely building into something better, a deeper story. But because he is the strongest sage in the world, he's never really struggling. There's no conflict in the story because he just like snaps his fingers and beats whatever monster he's fighting. So it's a little boring in that aspect. My husband and I own quite a few of these. I'll definitely read what we own, but I'm not sure at this point if it's something I'll continue to want to like go out and buy to read. Maybe I can get them through my library. I'm not sure, but yeah, I don't know. It's fine, but it's not an all-time favorite. My next 3-star read was The Brothers Hawthorne by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. In this one, I mean, you can kind of guess by the name, we followed the brothers, where in all the other books up to now, we've followed Avery, and I think she's just a much more interesting character. The brothers kind of all just feel the same to me, and they're kind of boring. I still like all of the mystery aspects in these books, and it's still a really fun series. All I have left now to read is the bind up of like novellas, and then the series will be knocked out for me. But yeah, overall, it was fine. Just I liked, the first three of the series much better. Next up, I read The Grip of It by Jack Jemick. I gave this one 3 stars as well. I also talk about this in much more detail in that same 101 horror vlog that I talked about earlier. I'll probably just make sure I link that down below because I read a few books this month for that vlog. Um, this one was fine, but nothing like spectacular. Definitely weird and creepy. But yeah, it's just a husband and wife trying to get a fresh start in a new house. The house is haunted. Things progress. Another 3-star read that I had this month that I am honestly really kind of disappointed by, because this was one of my most anticipated books coming out this year, and that is Phantom by H.D. Carlton. This one was just released in January. It came out on the 14th. I waited until the 21st to read it because that's when the audiobook came out. I'm not sure why they came out separately, but it is on KU if you want to check it out. It was also on my 25 in 2025 list, and it was part of my TBR game. So, like, I had a lot of reasons to read it, and I really wanted to read it. Unfortunately, it just fell a little flat because honestly, nothing happened. There was no plot besides he was stalking her. That's it. Literally nothing else happened. There was no real conflict. I don't know. I was just a little bored and disappointed by it. Like what was the point? I was so excited for Gigi's story, which if you're familiar with H.D. Carlton or not, this is kind of part of the cat and mouse duet world. So Haunting and Hunting Adeline are the cat and mouse duet. This book follows Adeline's grandmother because in those books, Adeline finds her grandmother's journal and is reading through it. So this is her grandmother's story. So she got her own book. I was so excited. It sounded so good because her grandma had a really similar situation with a stalker as Adeline did, and I absolutely loved those books. I gave them both 5 stars. So yeah, I don't know. I felt a little bit let down here. All right, so my next 3-star read was Moon on the Crusted Snow. I read this as part of my TBR game, and it is also on my horror bingo challenge. So, another one I was happy to get to. This is like kind of between novel and novella length. It's just over 200 pages. I guess I just didn't really know what I was getting into here. I kind of was. Well, I guess it's my fault, right? Because I didn't read the synopsis. I didn't really look into it. I just saw a snowy setting and assumed we'd have some sort of creature, right? Because that's not what we got. We didn't even really have like a bad guy, like an enemy. It was just a survival story. So that's probably my fault for not really looking into it and knowing what I was getting into. But I was just again a little bit bored by it. It was still beautifully written. It still told a really good story. It's just nothing fantastic. My next 3-star read is another arc that I got through NetGalley. This one was an audio arc, and that is for Eric LaRocca's new book, At Dark I Become Loathsome. Another novella. We know I'm not the biggest novella fan, but I have liked works from Eric LaRocca before, and honestly, this one was pretty darn good. I know I only gave it a 3-star, but I don't give novellas more than a 3-star, generally speaking. I think there's probably only been a very tiny, probably not even a handful, that I've given more than 3 stars. So that take that as you will. I did enjoy it. It was very dark, gruesome, brutal. It was a beautiful LGBTQ plus story, a beautiful grief story, but definitely some very visceral like imagery, and it was dark. It was messed up, and I really liked it. Now, let's talk about my 3.5-star books. So, the first one is The Prophets by Robert Jones Jr. We follow a couple slaves on a plantation in the deep south. It's two men. They have a relationship. No one's really upset by it. No one's really bothered by it until this older slave comes to stay here and starts preaching the gospel. And now all of a sudden, everyone is looking at them like it's dirty and it's wrong. And um, it's them kind of trying to navigate that world. There's also a lot of abuse in this one, um, not just to our main characters, but also side characters as well. There is a lot of gospel preaching in here, so just know that going in. Um, this is definitely not one that I would have picked up to read, but my TBR takedown video picked it for me, so that's how we ended up here. When I got this book years ago, I was very much into historical fiction, and I've kind of been not enjoying it that much lately. So I'm kind of glad that this video made me pick this because I think it's the last one on my shelf that like I've been putting off for years now. So feels good to have it done. Unfortunately, it was only a 3.5-star for me. I think it just got a little convoluted when we started introducing more and more characters. And I feel like a lot of the viewpoints didn't bring anything to the story. We didn't need them, they weren't necessary. And honestly, I don't even know why these people had their own chapters. Okay. My next 3.5-star read was Dark Gathering Volume 2. Um, This has been a really cute story so far. I actually started out watching the anime of it and was really enjoying that, so I decided to grab the manga as well. We follow this group of kids. Two of them can see ghosts because of situations in their life. The little girl, her parents died in a car crash, and now she can see ghosts. The boy in here is cursed, so he can see ghosts. Um, and they're kind of just trying to help each other, help other people that they meet, capture these evil spirits so they stop hurting people and preying on people. And it's just kind of been a fun little ride. So I've been really enjoying this series so far. All right, my next 3.5-star Twisted Hate by Anna Wong. This series has been a roller coaster for me so far. I really didn't like book 1. Book 2, I ended up loving. Book 3, I feel just very indifferent about. I love the male main characters that Anna Huang writes, but other than that, this particular story was really kind of dumb. I don't know. But I did do a 48-hour reading vlog one weekend this month, and I basically had a TBR jar of just some series that I wanted to work on. So that's how this one even got picked, because honestly, I probably wouldn't have gravitated towards it otherwise. So there will be quite a few more books we talk about that I read in that vlog. So again, I'll link that vlog down below too if you want to check it out to get some deeper thoughts on these books. My next 3.5 star read was The Terror by Dan Simon. This one, honestly, towards the end, really picked up and started to become a much better story. But the first, like, almost 50% of the book, not much happened, and I was quite bored. Once the action started ramping up, I was a little more invested, but I just felt like I couldn't connect with any of the characters, and I think that's where the disconnect was there for me, is I couldn't even tell you a single character's name in this book. That's how little I cared about them. So, yeah, 3.5 stars. Once it picked up, it was a lot of fun, but this is a long book. It's like 800 pages. So that's a long time to have to read before really feeling like something was happening. Next 3.5 star read was Thief of Silver and Souls by Ava Chase. This is a book that I have been wanting to read for a while. Ava Chase is an author that I've been wanting to try out because I keep hearing really good things. Um, this book, however, was kind of meh to me, but I think it's because it's setting up a series, right? This is the first book in, I don't even know how many books are in the series. It's 3 or 4, I think. So this one was a lot of setup. It's also kind of long. I think it's like 550 pages, so it's decently lengthed. But it was definitely a really unique story. I did enjoy it. Um, but it was kind of more of an info dumpy kind of a book where you're really setting up like the plot and the characters and the world, and it was just kind of a lot to take in. So I think I'm still going to try continuing the series and read at least one more of them. It's also, I thought, supposed to be Why Choose. So I don't know if we introduce more love interests later in the series or how that's going to work, but it's definitely quite different from most of the Why Choose that I've read so far, which kind of just introduces all the guys at once, and then it's like more of a conflict of her trying to figure out which guy to be with or getting them to all agree to be together as a group. Um, so it was a little different in that aspect as well. And my last 3.5 star read was The Au Pair Affair by Tessa Bailey. I actually just finished this one yesterday. Was a little let down. I loved Fangirl Down, which is the first book in this series. It is the Big Shot series. Um, they're like companion novels, so each of them follows a different couple, but you meet all of the characters in the other books. But Fangirl Down, I thought was fantastic. It was funny, it was spicy, it was goofy, and I just had such a good time with it. This one, I don't know. The plot was a little boring, I guess. She nannies for a hockey player. He's close to aging out, so he's like just tired and grumpy and kind of done. But he's super overprotective of her, overbearing. He oversteps at every chance he gets. Like he just does way, way too much. And I was just kind of like irritated with him sometimes. So yeah, it's also, I think it was like an 11-year age gap. It was a big age gap between them. And then also his like preteen daughter. She was really cute. I really liked seeing the girls interacting together, but he just kind of, I don't know. He was just kind of an oaf, and I didn't love it. All right, my next 4-star reads is a series that we already talked about just a little bit ago, and that is My Isekai Life. So Volumes 5 and 6, I gave them both 4 stars. Like I said, this series started out slow and now it's kind of building and getting a little bit better. We're adding some conflict with like rival magic wielders. I don't really know what to call them. But it's human conflict now instead of just him going and defeating monsters with the snap of his fingers. Like, so it's a little bit more fun that way. We've introduced some more characters and I've been enjoying them a little bit more now. Then another manga series that I started and read volumes 1 through 3 of and gave them all 4 stars is Overgeared. Um, Basically, we follow this kid who plays a popular VR game and he spends all his money and all his time doing this. So he's gone into debt now and his family's kind of having to like help pay off his debts to keep the debt collectors from coming after him. But he's just so obsessed with this game, he just keeps playing it. And something happens while he's in the game. He ends up getting a new class ability, and it is a master class ability. So now he's learning how to hone that skill. And he's finally able to start earning money in the game, which the way this game works is you can translate that money into real life when you come out of the VR simulation. Um, so now he's able to pay off his debts, help his family out, and it's very goofy and cheesy, but I'm having fun with it. So definitely excited to continue this series. I think there's only 5 out so far. Um, I own all 5, so I just need to read the next 2 really soon. And then the next 4-star, which is yet another manga that we already talked about, and that is Dark Gathering. This is volume 2. And again, it's a really cute, heartwarming story, but also, y'all know I love ghosts and ghosty type of things, so I've really been eating this series up. And did I say volume 2? This is volume 3. I apparently can't read big numbers on the book. But yeah, overall, really having a fun time with this series as well. The next 4-star read is Stolen Tongues by Felix Blackwell. This was so eerie and creepy and unsettling. It also has like a wintry kind of setting, so I felt like January was a good time to read it, and I just had a really good time with this one. My next 4-star read is Mickey 7 by Edward Ashton. I do own the physical copy, but I'm actually using this book as part of our traveling book club in the Love and Horror Discord that we just started. And also, the Mickey 17 movie is coming out in a couple months, so I really wanted to start this series. I had a really good time with it. Honestly, the only reason it didn't get 5 stars for me is I feel like some of the science kind of went over my head. Um, but it was goofy, it was funny, it had some very like weird dark humor that I absolutely love. This is a sci-fi comedy. Um, Also a little bit of a mix of horror in there because they are battling some space creatures. And overall, it was just a really great, fun story. I can't wait to see the movie when that comes out. And also, I really want to get into book 2 very soon. My next 4-star read was Deadly Debt by Kayla Rain and Meg Ann. This was the 3rd and final book in the Twisted Cross Ranch series. It was also one of my TBR game picks, so really glad that I got to this one. So I finished out that series. I had a great time with it. If you're not familiar with Kayla Rain and Meg Ann's writing, they do like all of the Make Games series and things like that. They're all wide choose, uh, very spicy, very goofy, very funny. Twisted Cross Ranch is mafia cowboys, so very unique as well. And I'm in my cowboy romance era right now, I guess. I just ate this up. The audiobook was fantastic. The narrators that do all of the male voices, because it's each character has a different narrator. Um, Fantastic, 5 stars. The story, however, not so much. I didn't exactly love the ending, and that's why I got 4 stars for me, but overall, the series was great and a lot of fun. So I highly recommend this. If you're more of a fantasy reader, I recommend the Make Games series. Um, I will be continuing those next month because the newest installment comes out, I think, on the 27th of January. So tomorrow, actually, but I probably won't get to it until February. But overall, a lot of fun. The next book that I gave 4 stars was Love Her or Lose Her by Tessa Bailey. This is book 2 of the Hot and Hammered series. I didn't really like book 1. I'm glad to say that I liked this one much, much more. I had a really good time with it. Um, feel like I don't read a lot of stories where we start out with our couple. They were high school sweethearts, they're married, and now they're struggling in their marriage. They end up actually separating, um, and then going to counseling and like getting back together and falling back in love. And I don't think that I've read a story like that before, but it was just really sweet and heartwarming to see them working and trying to build their relationship back. So it was just really kind of a unique story to me, at least. If you guys know of any other books that have a similar plot like that, where the couple separates but then gets back together, like a married couple, not just like a dating couple, that's obviously nothing special. That happens in like every romance because third act breakup for some reason needs to be in everything. um, I just, I really had a great time with this. So happy that I continued. Also, wasn't really what I was expecting though either. Being part of the Hot and Hammered series, I was expecting more of like the HGTV home improvement vibes like we got in the first book. Um, we didn't really get that so much here. Kind of a little bit with him. For the first book, that was more of a main focus, and I think in the third book, that's also going to be a focus. Um, these are again companion novels. We just follow a different sister in each of the books. So I'm now excited to continue this series. I was a little worried because I didn't like the first one, but I owned them all, so I still wanted to give them a try. So I'm glad I continued because I ended up loving this one. My next 4-star read is Lost and Lassoed by Layla Sage. Um, Another book that I am happy that I got to this month because I was trying to get caught up in the series. This is the third book in Rebel Blue Ranch series. Done and Dusted was kind of one that I felt sort of meh about. Like I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. Um, and then I read book 2 and ended up absolutely loving it. It was probably my favorite of the series. And now book 3. I still really liked this one. I don't think it's an all time favorite, but I love a single dad trope and an age gap. And this delivered on both of those things. And now I'm finally caught up. So I think in April is when the 4th book comes out. So we're at least caught up for a little bit. um, so really enjoyed this one. Now let's talk about my 4.5-star reads. I had another pretty good chunk of these. Um, the first one is Call to Adventure: Defeating Dungeons with a Skill Board. I read volume 1. Um, Another kind of lit RPG type of story. You guys know that's my like new obsession in manga right now. Had a lot of fun with it. We follow a 27-year-old, I think. He doesn't really look it looking at the cover, but he dreams of being an adventurer, but he has no skills. He's never done it before. And all of a sudden, a dungeon portal opens up in his garage, and he gets to go adventuring. And this was a really cute story. I'm super excited to continue. I feel like volume 1 of a lot of manga doesn't really give you a lot to go on, so I'm really excited to check out more of these. My next 4.5-star read is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. This is another one that I read in that 48-hour continuing series vlog, so now I'm finally caught up here. I really did enjoy this one. I just think it was a little too long for me. And that's why it didn't get 5 stars. There were some points in the story where I felt like it was dragging a little bit, but Abby Jimenez writes the best stories. I've been obsessed with all of them. I've given them all 4 or 5 stars from what I've read so far. So, yeah, had a great time here. Then the next book I picked up, which is also in that same 48-hour vlog, is A Safe Place to Die by Otto Schaefer. Um, this is a zombie apocalypse story. It was book 2 of the series, which is the final book. This one felt very much like The Walking Dead, where we are now like in the zombie apocalypse and we are trying to survive, find other people, find food, find medicine, find shelter, and protection against not just zombies, but also other people that are trying to steal from you. Like, it definitely gave all the Walking Dead vibes, and I had a really good time with it. So I definitely recommend the Rack and Ruin series if you're looking for a fun zombie apocalypse story. Then I also gave 4.5 stars to The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. Um, I normally don't like slow burn. This is definitely slow burn. Like, they don't even kiss, I think, until like 60% of the way into the book, and they don't get it on until like 75% of the way into the book. Um, it's just such a sweet, heartwarming story. There's found family aspect in here, which you guys know I eat up. Um, this is actually the first book in a series, so I'm gonna have to pick up the rest because I really want to continue this story and see where it goes. Also, the Alaskan setting was really, unique for a contemporary romance. I feel like we don't generally I don't I don't think I've read another one that's taken place in Alaska, honestly. Um, but we follow Kala, her estranged father ends up getting sick with cancer. One of his friends reaches out to her to let her know that he is sick. So she is having a hard time in her life back in, I think it was New York, something like that. I don't know. It doesn't matter. She goes to Alaska to meet her father again and rekindle that relationship with him, get to know him a little more, and ends up falling in love with a guy that works for her dad. And it's just such a cute, heartwarming story. I really loved it. Next book that I gave 4.5 stars to is Dead of Winter by Darcy Coates. This was part of my TBR game. This was also, I'm trying to do most or all of the Goodreads challenges this year. We'll see how that goes. But so that was for the Goodreads challenge for my TBR game, and it was also our Love and Horror book club pick for the month of January. This was so much fun. Like, these people are so stupid and have no survival instincts, but it's a group of 7 or 8. I don't remember. Doesn't matter. Group of people go on a bus. They're heading up the Rocky Mountains to go to this like retreat. Um, they end up getting stuck because a tree is down in the road, so they all end up getting out of the bus and like wandering off. A snowstorm hits, of course, in the middle of this, and they end up at this cabin, and people start getting picked off one by one, and it's just chaos. Especially the last, like, I'd say 30% of this book. Like, it's just nonstop action. Um, reading this with friends was a lot of fun. Kristen from the Neverending TBR in Kristen's Corner was reading it at the same time as me, and we were just, like, texting back and forth, like, "Oh my god," like, "I think it's this. Well, maybe it's this," and, like, sending gifts back and forth from all the dumb things that these characters were doing. It was just so much fun, and I had such a great time with it. My next 4.5-star read was, oh, that's really reflecty. Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros, the third book in the Empyrean series. This one just came out on the 21st. It was also on my 25 in 2025. So glad that I got to it. I pretty much read this like immediately. I also had the audiobook through my library, which they sent to me like, well, not a full day early. I got it like right before bed the night before it released. So I got to start a little bit earlier than I would have otherwise. Um, I liked this way more than book 2. I liked it slightly less than book 1. So it's definitely right there in the middle for me. So I went with 4.5 because I gave book 2 4 stars and I gave book 1 5 stars. But I I don't know that the series like I know there's more books, but I feel like we're I'm afraid we're trying too hard to like drag out the story now, so I'll be interested to continue, but like I feel like we're at the point now where like things could start wrapping up, so excited to see where book 4 takes us. And I just love these dragons so, so much. I'm not going to talk about this anymore because I know a lot of people still haven't gotten to finish it yet, and I don't want to ruin it for anybody because I know this is like one of the most anticipated books of the year for a lot of people. So, moving on. um, my last 4.5-star read was Torment Part 1 by Dylan Page. This is a dark romance. We are following a young girl. The story kind of keeps going from present day, where she is 16 and then 17, back to her past, starting when she's like 6 or 7. Um, Basically, her mom marries into a motorcycle gang, and her stepbrother is kind of like weirdly possessive of her. Um, and there's also a little kind of love triangle aspect that happens because she meets someone from a rival motorcycle gang and starts to fall in love with him. Of course, her stepbrother's going to have nothing to do with that. And this one is really a roller coaster. Um, just the things that this poor girl goes through, with her stepfather's amazing. Like, I love James so much as a character. Her stepbrother, however, kind of gives me the ick. um, and then Keenan, the other love interest, is just so, so sweet, and I love him so much. But we really go through it. It's a roller coaster of emotions in this book, and I've actually now started part 2. I probably won't finish it for another couple days because it's one that I kind of just read at night before bed, so I don't get very far every day. Um, but I'm not liking it all that much because it's mostly just her and her stepbrother's story. So I don't know. I guess we'll see where that one ends up. But overall, had a really good time with it. It's definitely not going to be for everyone. For sure, check your triggers because there's a lot of messed up stuff in it. But I still had a decent time. Now, let's get into our 5 stars. There are 5 stars. That seems like a good number to round this off at. First one being Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint, Volume 1. We follow our main character who He is the only person who has finished reading this, like, web novel series. It's really super long, and it started out with tons of, like, followers reading it, and then they've been just slowly trickling off. He is the only person who has actually read the whole thing. Something happens while he's on the subway, and now they're all of a sudden dumped into that story. So they're all counting on him to survive because he's the only one who knows what the heck is happening. um, so we haven't gotten to a ton of like fighting and that kind of stuff yet because it was more just setting up the story. So I'm really excited to continue because I had a great time with this one and I think the plot is really interesting. So yeah, really excited to continue here. Next up is Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire by J.K. Rowling. Um, Again, I don't really need to tell you what the story is. You guys all know by now, and if you don't, go read it because this whole series is amazing. Like if you have not read Harry Potter, you are doing yourself a disservice. Just go read them. Next up, I have Dating and Dragons by Christy Boyce. This is book two. I don't know that this series really has a name. Book one was Dungeons and Drama. We follow a different set of kids in this one, but they all still play D&D. This group actually does it like they stream it. So it's really interesting and fun. They definitely have a lot bigger personalities because they're streaming. They really get into like acting out their characters and stuff. It's a very cute little story. I think I liked this more than book one, and I really liked book one. So yeah, I'm having a great time with these. I hope she continues to write more. As far as I know, there's not another one coming out, but I hope that she writes one because this was a lot of fun. Next, my continuation of the Chestnut Springs series, I ended up reading Powerless by Elsie Silver. This is another one that I read for that 48-hour vlog. So again, I'll make sure I link that down below. Um, Another small town, single dad, age gap, cowboys. All of the things that I am just eating up right now. I've enjoyed all of the books in the Chestnut Springs series so far. Um, so I've read 3 of the 5. I need to get to the other 2 very soon because I'm just having such a good time. And if like I'm in my cowboy area, I might as well lean into it and just binge it, right? Like that probably is a smart thing to do. And then last, but certainly not least, if I did 6 stars, this would be my 6-star read. But I don't. So this is definitely my favorite book that I read in the month of January, and that is June 1st by Jennifer Hartman. I again read this in that 48-hour vlog, so I won't talk about it a ton here, but I don't generally cry from books. And when I tell you the last like hour of this book, I was bawling like a baby. Like full on ugly crying. I loved it so much. Um we follow the male main character in this one. And his name is Brant. We start off when he is 6 years old. Something very, very tragic happens to him, and he ends up being adopted into a new family. So it's not necessarily a step sibling romance, it's like an adopted sibling romance. But nothing really happens until they're both full grown adults. Um, but just seeing them interacting as children, growing up together, um, his like found family story with finding this new group of people to love him, a new set of parents, new siblings. Like it was just really sweet and heartwarming. Like I said, at the end, I was like ugly crying just because of the conversation he was having with his adopted parents and with What is her name? Forget. I want to say Brooke, but that's not right. Oh. Duh. June. I got it. I'm dumb. Anyway, so definitely check out that 48-hour vlog to get more in-depth thoughts. But yeah, I ate this story up. I didn't think anything was going to stop. Anything was going to top still beating for me. But this one did it. This one was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. It's definitely kind of taboo and messed up. So again, check your triggers. But yeah, I just had an absolutely fantastic time with this one. All right, guys. Thank you for getting through this with me. This was a really long video. I'm so sorry. I don't know how I read so much, but regardless, here we are. Let me know down in the comments below if you've read any of these books or what you're looking forward to reading next month. If this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe and make sure your notifications are on so you don't miss any upcoming content. Give the video a thumbs up on your way out, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye.